Welcome to Driver Focus. We've had the Canadian Grand Prix and let's run down and rate the drivers. Max Verstappen, again, when the only mistake that you make is one corner on one lap, on lap 66 when you ran slightly wide, give himself a bit of a scare. All weekend, a lights to flag finish, victory, 10 out of 10. Fantastic. And to say, all the people that say, oh, he's got a fantastic car and that's why he's winning so much, well, actually look where his teammate is, and that puts it into perspective of actually how good a job he's actually doing. You know, the greats do things like that, and that leads me to Alonso. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic P2 finish for him. Started in second. He got the jump, or got jumped by Hamilton at the start, and actually then, you know, really got down, knuckled down, and actually was really closing up into Hamilton when the safety car came out. And the move was crucial, wasn't it, to get that pass on Hamilton when he could. Then came into some car troubles and really managed that well right to the end. Did Fernando Alonso. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10, Fernando. And like I was saying with Max, Alonso, another one, showing how, you know, what a great driver actually brings to a team. Look at where his teammate is. Lance Stroll absolutely struggling miles back. It's just Alonso against Mercedes at the moment, and they really probably are hoping that Stroll gets his act together. Next, Lewis Hamilton, and actually I think he'll be really happy with his performance overall this weekend. It's a track where they thought that they would struggle. It doesn't really suit their car, this circuit. The slow corners really, you know, pointing out the weaknesses of the Mercedes in the traction, where they were saying, you know, we're really losing out to Aston Martin and Red Bull. And I'm going to go for an 8 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. Next, Leclerc, he finished P4 and after an absolutely shocking qualifying, and he was absolutely really angry at his team, wasn't he, at what they were doing. And even again in the race, there was a questionable that strategy call, wasn't it, to stay out on the mediums where everyone's pitted, but it did give them track position, which actually turned out to be a really key and brilliant decision, didn't it, at the end, as we've seen with Albon, who we'll get to in a minute. And that really rescued what would have been a really disastrous weekend. A decent 4th place finish for Ferrari. I'm going to go for a 7 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc. Carlos Sainz, again with Leclerc, had a poor qualifying, which got dented with that 3-place penalty he got for impeding, and it was sort of driver and team really need to get their act together on that. That's not the first time that's happened to them this season, and they can't afford to happen too often. But again, he matched Leclerc's strategy, but it was risky obviously going that far in the mediums, especially with Perez in the faster Red Bull coming behind them. You know, again, fantastically well done, held position and actually pulled away from Perez when it counted. Another 7 out of 10 for Sainz, can't go wrong with that. Sergio Perez, I mean, he got 6th place, but a poor qualifying session, wasn't it? Going out again in Q2, started 12th, and actually it was, I think it's underlying with a car that Max Verstappen is showing is actually a brilliant car. What is he doing? What's wrong with him as his side of his garage? I really don't understand that performance from him. He was on what I would assume would be the better tyres compared to Ferrari. You know, in the second stage of that strategy where, you know, Ferrari were on the hards and he was on the mediums, I expected him to really close up and make some sort of battle with the Ferrari, but he really struggled and dropped back from Sainz. Didn't really make an impression on there, and you know, 6th place is kind of the least you expect from a recovery. A place you can overtake in Canada. We know how good the DRS is on that Red Bull, and for him to really struggle like that, I don't know what's happened to Sergio Perez, but another 4 out of 10 performance from him this weekend. Alex Albon, oh, brilliant qualifying. Yes, he did start a bit lower down in 10th. He didn't get that lap in Q3, but Q2 was fantastic, wasn't it? Really brave, getting first, getting the, you know, going out on them dry tyres when the rain was still there, patchy track with wet and dry, and really made that work. And actually in the race, what a performance. I mean, I didn't expect him to hold on as well as he did, you know, with Ocon with such better tyres behind him. I really did expect him to struggle, but he did a magnificent job, kept the tyres in decent condition, brilliant defensive work, and that Williams, actually them upgrades on his car, there's actually a lot of pressure on him because there's only parts or new upgrade parts just available for him. I mean, his teammate won't get them until Silverstone, so a couple of races time yet. So you know, even to go out in qualifying with the dodgy conditions and the risk of knowing that actually if I make a mistake and trash these parts, there is no new upgrade parts for the team. just shows what a brilliant performance he's done. I can't go any there, but a 10 out of 10 for Alex Albon. Next, Ocon, he finished 8th, but actually he'll be disappointed. He was in the hunt throughout the race, but to start 6th, I think he would have been hoping to at least stay there, maybe 7th, knowing that he had a faster Red Bull coming up behind him. But he got stuck in the DRS train and actually, really surprisingly for me, couldn't get away past Alex Albon in that Williams, which had much slower tyres, like I've already said. I think he'll be really disappointed with his weekend, especially after the high of Monaco, and it's sort of just peaking down a bit now, isn't it? Back to reality maybe for Ocon, but a 5 out of 10 for him sadly this weekend. Next we've got Lance Stroll, and actually after a really poor qualifying session where he finished, all the way down in 16th, and his teammate was, fighting for podium, 2nd place in qualifying, on the podium, 2nd in the race. I mean, Aston Martin are fighting with one arm behind their back, and Stroll really, his seat has got to be under pressure, hasn't it? I imagine if your father wasn't the team manager, I think, and I might be a bit harsh and out of order saying that, but I imagine the driver would be out of that seat by now. Real pressure to try and upturn that performance, because they're fighting one hand behind the back against the Mercedes, and with Mercedes, I know Russell made a rare mistake this weekend, but generally both in the points, and they need Stroll to get his act together. Another poor weekend. He didn't really have much battle to come through the field, did he? In a car that was as fast as Alonso showing it is. He'll be massively disappointed. 4 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Next, Valtteri Bottas, finally a top 10 finish. He started 14th, actually moved forward in the race, thank God for that. I mean, he'll be disappointed actually that Stroll beat him on the line, didn't he? Barely half a second in the end, or if that, a few thousandths in it, wasn't it, over the line? So really close. He'll be disappointed. Could have got an extra point for that, and much needed point for that Alfa Romeo team. I'm going to go for an 8 out of 10 for Valtteri Bottas for this weekend. Next, Oscar Piastri. I mean, he'll finish 11th. He'll be disappointed, won't he? He was in the hunt in a brilliant battle with the midfield teams, wasn't there? Haas, Hülkenberg at the time, his teammate Albon. It was a really good battle to see, but sadly he lost out on some points in the end, and I think overall he will be disappointed. He wasn't too far off Norris, but you've got to be better than that when you're at a top team and you've got that talent. We need to see something special from him, but overall a decent weekend for Oscar Piastri. I'm going to go for a 5 out of 10 for him. Pierre Gasly actually had really bad luck, didn't he? He finished in 12th place, but his qualifying really, the mistake from, or the lack of movement from Carlos Sainz of getting out of his way really cost him, didn't it? Meant he qualified so far back, but actually decent recovery from him. And overall a so-so weekend, isn't it? I think he will be disappointed though, and probably hoping for some points with a car that is much better than where he finished. I'm going to go for a 5 out of 10 for him. Lando Norris, I mean, what a brilliant qualifying session he had, didn't he? P7, again with Albon in Q2 going on the dry tyres, or one of the first ones to do it, and got a brilliant lap in. But in the race, I think he'll be disappointed, and that 3 or 5 second penalty he got for the unsportsmanlike behaviour, apparently, just going slow. I think it was a bit of a weird reasoning behind the penalty, wasn't it, to call it unsportsmanlike. He just slowed down under the virtual safety car below the delta, and he got a penalty, which actually really cost him, doesn't he, because he was in a battle with Ocon, as we've seen, coming to the line, just missed out passing him, but that 5 second pushed him all the way back to P13, and he'll be disappointed, but otherwise would have been a reasonable weekend. So I'm going to go for a 6 out of 10 for Lando Norris. Yuki Tsunoda, after a poor qualifying, started in 19th place, but he had a decent race, didn't he? Recover up to 14th place. Had a quiet weekend, didn't he, overall? I'm just going to give him a 5 out of 10. Nico Hülkenberg, wow, fantastic qualifying, wasn't he? He should have been 2nd place, but sadly got that 3-place penalty for, I think it was really harsh reasoning for that, wasn't he? He started the quick lap, and then the red flag was thrown, but because he was still faster in that delta sector, he got a penalty, which actually, when the red flag was thrown, before that, that's the part he was fast. It should be from when the red flag was thrown. Was he slow enough at that point? And I think they all said he wasn't. What this normally says, he was fast in that pit. The penalty should be a 10th place grid penalty, but they only gave him a 3 place for mitigating factors. Actually, should just not give him anything at all, should he? But the timing of his pit stop on lap 12 was really hard, harsh, wasn't it? He came in just before the safety car flag was thrown because of Russell's crash, and that really cost him. Went all the way back and then battled hard from there. I'm just going to say it's a bit unlucky, but I'm going to go for a 6 out of 10 because that qualifying performance was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it, for him? Zhou Guanyu finished in 16th, and it's been a weekend to forget. He really struggled in qualifying. He was at the back, started last, and then actually in the race he didn't make too much progress, I suppose. Yes, he got 2 DNFs, so he moved a place forward, I suppose, from last. But not a great race, one to forget, and he'll be hoping for better and getting closer to his teammate and beating him like he has done all season so far. But a 4 out of 10 for Zhou Guanyu this weekend. Kevin Magnussen, 17th, a decent qualifying with 13th place, but again has struggled in the race. Gonna go for a 5 out of 10 for K-Mag. I mean, he got a bit unlucky with that odd battle with Nick De Vries, didn't he, which really cost him. Otherwise, it would have been a few places higher up. Nick De Vries finished in 18th and last effectively because of 2 DNFs. Not a great weekend for him, was it? You know, not a great qualifying session. Car wasn't competitive, so not all down to him. But actually, you know, in his racecraft, his battle with K-Mag, what was he doing? It was almost like playing chicken with himself. It was unnecessary, and it cost both him and Magnussen massively in the end, and sent him all the way to the back. It just adds pressure, which he doesn't really need, does he, Nick De Vries? And he's got some sort of quality brilliance in there, but it's just not shown. I think he just needs a couple of standout performances to get his season back up and running. But a 4 out of 10 for him, unfortunately, this weekend. And then the DNFs. George Russell finished in 19th, well, yeah, effectively 19th. Got to lap 55, surprisingly, after that massive smash. It was a decent qualifying performance, but got beat by his teammate. And actually an uncharacteristic mistake, wasn't it, with that crash? Don't normally see him doing that, but it happened, and it was, you know, really odd. But that Mercedes is made out of something, isn't it, to get all the way through again to lap 55. I'm going to give him 4 out of 10 because I expect better from him. And then, last but not least, Logan Sargent. Not a great qualifying, but better, finished 17th. It wasn't last at least this time, but then only got 7 laps into the race. Had to retire because of the car issue. Can't really give him a rating for that. But there we go. There's your ratings for the Canadian Grand Prix. Watch out for the preview for the Austrian Grand Prix coming up. Looking forward to that race, the home of the Red Bull racing team. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment as always. I'll see you in the next video.